Your job is to work on you. And certainly you're going to model all of these things because you're going to be doing them. But your job is not to force, make, or cause anyone to feel guilty because they're not using conscious discipline. There's another question. What if the grandparents don't do it? What I would strongly suggest is, instead of trying to force people to do it, when those folks are uncomfortable or say, oh, you're being too soft, or this kid needs some discipline, now is your chance to use conscious discipline with them. Take a deep breath. Choose to see the best in them. Choose to see that it's scary for them to change, that you've decided to make this change and this journey before they did. Your judgment only begets judgment back at you. When you let go of that judgment, believe it or not, they start to go, well, okay. And I can tell you, here's what quietly happened at my house. My husband was not going to do that. He said, look at me, I turned out just fine. Little did I know, 7 months after I'd been implementing conscious discipline in my home, we went on vacation and somebody ran in from the boardwalk and said, oh my gosh, I just saw magic on the boardwalk. I said, you did? What magic did you see? At that point, my son was 3. Just at the age where, they do the whole limp body thing. You hold their hand and they're all limp and they won't walk. And I said, what magic did you see? Well, Sam, he just was going to lay down on the boardwalk and not walk any farther because he wanted to do something. He wanted to stop at a shop. And my husband said, we're going to keep walking. And I said, well, what was the magic that you saw? And she said, it was unbelievable. I said, what did he do? And she said, he looked right at him and he said, do you want to hold my hand or do you want to ride on Aunt Tam's shoulders? And I said, my husband said that? And she said, yeah. And I said, wow, interesting. So when he came in, I said, what gives? I've never heard you. In fact, I've kind of heard you mock some of the stuff that I do. And he said, you think I'm going to practice in front of the expert? And I said, oh, touche, understand, you're right. So sometimes the modeling that you do with your family members, even your parents, quietly they go away, and in the safety of their own place, they give that a try. But they are not going to try those new skills in front of you. So that would be a critical piece. Now I can also tell you about the grandparent piece. Here's what happens. When you teach this to your children at a very young age, it becomes the way that they see the world. It's their first language. So when your parents say or act in a traditional or fear-based way, you've already armed your children with skills how to handle upset situations. I can't tell you how many times my 3-year-old daughter sat in the back of my dad's car in her little car seat while he was yelling at everyone outside who was driving too slow or didn't turn when they were supposed to or didn't put their turn signal on. And she'd say, Pawpaw, you need to take a big, deep breath. It's not nobody's fault. Take a big, big breath. And he would laugh and giggle. And of course, guess what would happen? He would change his state and I didn't have to put earplugs in her ears. So we have to realize that when we arm our kids with these skills, they're prepared for meeting people in the world who don't have these skills. And it's not ruining them when they run into somebody that doesn't have them. They just get to practice and use their new skills.